Now, in order to really help you elevate your leadership in life, whether it's at home or the business or hopefully both, we really need to dig into a couple different processes, and I've come up with just a few things to give you today that will help you on your journey. First thing is a decision-making process that we used in the Air Force. It was developed by Colonel John Boyd, and it's called the OODA loop. You're like, OODA loop? What the heck is that, right? OODA? What? It stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. And those are the 4 basic steps that you need to take in any situation. Whenever you're new to a leadership position or you're trying to really get better, you need to first observe, orient, then decide, and act, okay? Now we're going to look at a real quick case study that illustrates this perfectly. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called The Bomber Mafia recently, and I'm not paid to endorse that or anything. I just want to use it as a case study. So he talks about 2 different generals in the Air Force, and this is the time of World War II, 1945, okay, and we're at World War. So put yourself in that state of mind. You know, people are dying, and we're trying to shorten the war and make it as short as possible at this point because there's been too much death and destruction. Sometimes you need to cause more destruction in order to elevate out of that, and we're going to kind of examine that a little bit too. So there's these 2 generals, Major General Hansell and General Lemay. General Hansell was in charge of the B-29 unit tasked with attacking Tokyo. But there were a few problems that he ran into. So he'd send the bombers up, and the guys would come back, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, you know, we couldn't drop the bombs today. They're clouds, and they weren't used to dropping through clouds. Also, there was this weird weather phenomenon called the jet stream that they hadn't run into before. And the jet stream is what we have here in the United States, too. I mean, it's what we fly with every day, especially in the wintertime. And think of it as like this massive river of air, mostly in the northern United States here. So when you're flying from New York to LA, it takes longer because you're heading into that headwind, right? As opposed to flying from LA to New York. Just an example. But back then, they didn't know the jet stream existed. And so over Japan, it is really strong. And so they went to drop these bombs on Tokyo, and they were missing their targets all over the place. They were high altitude bombers at the time. That was the tactic, and it was daylight tactic bombing. Neither of these were working because it was cloudy and the jet stream was there throwing the bombs off. So what do? They started to hold the bombers on the runway in Guam. They're like, we're not even going to waste our fuel or our bombs or anything until the weather is clear. Well, they ended up not taking off for several days. The war's going on, you know, we need to win this thing, and you guys aren't doing anything about this. So what do? Well, the bosses on high relieve General Hansell, fire, in other words, and they put General Lemay in charge. General Lemay comes in, and he uses the OODA loop model, right? He's like, what is going on here? Why can't we drop bombs on Tokyo? So what does he do? He observes and orients himself, right? He sends up the bombers again. They come back. The bombs are way off target, or they didn't drop them. Okay, so now he gets everybody in a room, all the high leaders on Guam, and he's like, what is going on? How can we fix this? And together they come up with a decision. So OODA, remember? Observe, orient, decide, act. So they make a decision, but the decision is ultimately his. And I want you to realize that too, is he took responsibility for this decision. It was a tough decision, and that's what is missing from our leaders today. Most leaders in the corporate environment or in our home environment, we let the environment dictate our behavior, and we fail to decide or act. The last 2 steps of that OODA loop model, right? So he decides that they are going to drop the bombs now at night because they're going to come in low at 5,000 feet, and they're going to use a new weapon that they've never used before called napalm, and they're going to set the city of Tokyo on fire, which is crazy. But they were like, how do we avoid this jet stream, and how do we get past the clouds? How can we not let the environment dictate our behavior? And so he decides to go in low. He paints the bottoms of the airplanes black, and he introduces the crews to their new mission. He's like, hey guys, guess what? You're going to go in low, 5,000 feet over Tokyo. Don't worry though, the bottom of your airplanes are painted black, so you're good. See, we thought that the Tokyo air defenses would take us out. Much like in the current days when Russia, we gave them way too much credit for Ukraine, and Ukraine is fighting like mad to get their territory back. So proud of them. Look, we give so much credit to the intelligence aspect of our decision making, where we use the news or we use C-SPAN or Bloomberg TV to decide on which stocks to act on and stuff like that, right? And so the intelligence came back to General Lemay and said, look, we should not do this. Tokyo air defenses are going to absolutely destroy our whole fleet. General Lemay put it on himself and he said, we have to get results. We have to get results. So I'm going to do something, a calculated risk here that I think is going to work. And he put his butt on the line to make it work. He counted every airplane as they took off on that first mission. And he counted every airplane as they returned. Okay? He risked his life, his career, all the lives of his crew to make an impact. You need to do that in your own way in your life and business, okay? This is not war, but business and life is kind of like war. You need to observe, orient, decide, act today. Take calculated risk, own it. Number 2 is we work down the line to elevate you to an elite leadership status is you need to become a servant leader and own it. What do I mean by that? You need to serve your folks that you lead. That means taking time to mentor them, including your kids, folks. This life is so short. It is so important that you do not waste the day. Feel your heartbeat. I love doing this exercise. Feel your heartbeat right now. Take a minute. It's a gift. It was given to you. You were given this day. What are you going to do with it? If you allow your kids to watch Netflix and play video games all night long because you're exhausted from work, you are not serving them. They are not growing. You're not doing your job as a good parent. And believe me, I'm in a co-parenting relationship. I went through divorce, right? I inherited this beautiful black lab with my soulmate marriage, and my wife inherited a now 10-year-old son who is amazing, and we do this whole co-parenting thing really well. My ex and I get along really well. And some of you need to take that lesson too. Because I fly with people all the time at the airline that have been divorced 4 or 5 times, and they don't realize, and they got all these toxic stuff going on, but the kids are suffering. You need to grow up, be mature, and have those conversations with your ex to elevate the parenting style. The kids are the ones that are suffering. And don't give me this excuse of, oh, well, these different situations. There are. And I understand some of you are going through a lot of stuff with your exes. And maybe you can't work it out, But you need to figure out how to make an impact when you do have your kids. You need to be a servant leader for them. How can you give to them of your experiences that helps them grow? That's your job as a parent today. When my son was here over the holiday break, I sat him down for a good hour or 2 a day, and we talked about life. We talked deeply about goal setting and execution. He's journaling every day, getting to know himself. It's so important. Do your job as a parent, as a leader, right? Come on. We've been passive too long. We need to do this for the next generation. So how do you make your business leadership better? Well, you have to serve your team. You have to grow for your team. What do I mean? When I was going through my divorce, after I was coming out of that whole process and waiting to get back into flying the B-2, after I had healed and gone to counseling, I was waiting for my clearances to come back. And they put me in charge of wing scheduling, which is a $170 million year-over-year program that manages $44 billion of critical national assets. Now, I was able to take that program as a dysfunctional program and make it into a $220 million year-over-year powerhouse of productivity. But it didn't happen overnight. First thing I did was the OODA loop, right? I observed, I oriented. I went in day one and I was like, holy cow, this thing is in shambles. The squadrons have all the power. The power needs to come back to wing scheduling because it's chaos right now. And as I started to decide and act, I brought the team together. I had a team of about 10 people, and we all came together. We formed some goals, and we started to attack on our vision. I'm going to teach you how to do that in the coming episodes of really going in depth into goal setting and execution. But as we were going through the D of OODA, right, the decide function, I brought everybody together so everybody had a piece of the pie. Now, you have to understand delegation as a leader. You cannot do everything yourself. And as a leader of a company or a leader of your team, you need to make sure that you're mostly staying on the strategic level. Get yourself out of the tactical mess. If you're a team leader, you're both strategic and tactical. You're going to get in there a little bit. But if you're CEO, you should be delegating almost every decision so that you can stay on the strategic level and be the visionary guidance piece, because that's your job as CEO, to guide your company and nourish your people. Find out the obstacles that are getting in the way and eliminate those obstacles. As a team leader, as a frontline leader, you are also in charge of your team's vision and strategy, but you need to get the obstacles out of the way as well. Sometimes you're tactically out there doing it. So if you're in a restaurant, for example, as a team leader, as a general manager, you are doing the vision, you're going around table to table and you're organizing, make sure everybody's got their stuff, right? But sometimes you got to bring the wine to the table and introduce yourself and help out your servers, because that makes a world of difference. For me, the moment that I really established credibility was at a meeting. And so imagine this, the generals are there, the colonels are all there, and we had a big mess up in wing scheduling. One of my people made a decision that really, I forget what the decision was, but it really threw a wrench into a lot of things and ended up costing a couple $1 million of productivity. Huge, huge mistake. That kind of level of stuff, right? And I'm getting yelled at the table. And so often leaders today, they don't want to take responsibility for their unit. Well, what did I do? I put all the responsibility on me, and that's what you need to do with your team today too. Because you need to show your team that it is okay to fail, but that you are going to fail forward and grow. So I took the heat in that meeting, and I said, that's my responsibility, and we're going to fix it, okay? And we went back to the office, and the person that made that decision that cost so much lost productivity came up to me and was super apologetic, right? And I said, don't worry about it. That is in the past. We need to take that, harness that failure, and move it into the future. But here's the thing. You want to make sure that your people are there to decide and act when you're not there or when you are there. You cannot do everything as a leader. You need to trust your people, and that includes allowing them to fail. When you allow your folks to fail, you'll be surprised at how they come back and rebound. It is amazing, okay? So this person, my teammate, really had a lot of respect for me after that. I said, go make the decision. If you feel like it's the right decision, make the decision. If it's not the right decision, we'll go back and we'll talk about it and we'll adjust. But the most important thing is that you make a decision right now. So many people are afraid to make decisions for an illusion of job security or whatever it is. You need to enforce a standard of deciding and acting upon it. Once your people can grow with decisions and acting upon those decisions, whether they're right or wrong, you can always make another decision, right? You can correct it. If you can't correct it, the leader needs to take responsibility and own it, and then debrief it, which I'll talk about in future episodes as well. We're going to go in depth into debriefing. But you really need to allow an environment of failing forward and growing. You'll be surprised at what your team can accomplish. Let go. Be the servant leader. Stay strategic. Get a little bit involved in the tactical if you're a team leader. Okay? Help your people out. They need to know that. But encourage them to make the decisions and act. It also gets a lot off of your plate. So then you're staying strategic. You're being a better leader. You're more grateful. You're more ingrained into the environment of what you're doing. Because it is so important that we observe, orient, decide, act today. The OODA loop goes well for the Air Force. It goes well in your business, in your life. Parents, you need to lead your kids. Stop watching TV all night. Play a board game. There's this amazing game called Spy Alley that we play, and it's strategy and tactics. It's amazing. It is a lot of fun for kids. Get out there. Play with your kids. Grow with them. Teach them what you know, because you have talents and passions that I don't have. Get out there, lead your teams, lead your families, lead your life. Don't let someone else lead your existence, because if you do nothing, the world will continue to turn. And that means decisions are being made on your behalf, whether you like it or not. So you might as well create your own future, a great future that I know you can do. I hope you learned a lot today. I'm really pouring out my passion and trying to help you elevate your leadership in your life with your kids, with your business, with your leadership overall. Did you learn something today? I know you did. Please leave a like or a comment. I'll do my best to get back to you. I really want you to elevate to that elite level in life and leadership, okay? And if you want to dig deeper, and this is my only plug, order the book Stealth Elevate. It's all my passion, all my life experiences rolled up in deep, good content that will help you elevate to that next level as well. It is awesome to help you grow in life and business. Please let me know. Reach out to me. Go to stealthelevation.com. elevate@stealthelevation.com is the email. Find me on socials. I'm more than happy to respond. Until next time, keep elevating. Let's go.